Hey there, and welcome to Becoming a Bow Hunter. I'm your host, Matty, and join me and our guests as we take the quality of meat back into our own hands. Searching the wild for free-ranged animals to harvest as ethically as we can. I interview a variety of specialists from the bow hunting community to help fast-track your journey as a bow hunter. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this chinwag on one of your favorite topics in the world, bow hunting. Bow hunters, welcome back. Today I'm joined by Monty Nixon on Instagram at Monty_Nixon. Monty, welcome, mate.
Cheers for having me. It's gonna be good.
Yeah, definitely, dude. So, I mean, we were talking for a little bit just before the show started, but we were just kind of, you were asking how I actually came across you, and I have no idea. I just found your Instagram page, and you get up to some pretty fun-looking stuff over there in New Zealand, and I kind of thought that you because you've grown up on it, I think you've got a lot of insights that we can kind of pull from you, and realistically, you're quite a young guy. You're actually probably the youngest, I think, that I've had on the show. So, a 19-year-old for the show. We had a 20-year-old or 21-year-old a few weeks ago, and he did an awesome job. But Monty, tell us a little bit about yourself, dude. Like, what do you do with yourself for work, and then whereabouts you living, all that side of things as well.
Yeah, well, I've just actually handed in my resignation. I did work for a pest control company out in Pleasant Point, which is about half an hour from here, just trapping like possums and controlling wilding like plants. Over here in New Zealand. But I'm just about to take a year off to go hunting. So
a year just full hunting?
Yeah, well, basically, yeah. So that should be good. But
that's insane. In New Zealand? Sorry. There's a lot to tap into here.
in New Zealand and in Australia, hopefully.
Man, that is sick. That's so cool.
That should be good. Looking forward to that. But that's sort of the first hunt for that sort of endeavour start was just the other day. So
okay.
No, good. But yeah, grown up in Fairlie most of my life, basically, which is just, 2 hours south of Christchurch and inland a little bit.
Yeah.
But had pretty good access to Tahr and chamois and red deer, so I can, if I wanted to go hunt Tahr, it's only, the closest spot's probably I can get there in half an hour, so it's pretty good.
So good. Yeah, it's nice to have access that close. Dude, that's cool. So let's talk about trapping a little bit. What do you do for your job? Like, how do you guys go about trapping the possums, and why are they such a pest for you guys over there?
Well, we sort of do it for a thing called tuberculosis, because obviously they spread TB around the place. So we'll go into areas that have had, like, signs of TB in the cattle and deer, and we'll basically go and get the possum numbers to low enough and then get them tested for TB. So we're not trying to eradicate them, but get them low enough and get enough sort of carcasses tested to see that the TB's gone. We're trying to eradicate TB from the area, but it's not like a full.
Does it only spread through the possums, or does it spread through the cattle and everything as well? Like once it's in the cattle, are you kind of stuffed?
Yeah, you sort of, I think you probably have to kill the beast, because a lot of the time it's only like one cattle beast or one deer or something that's got it. But I don't know too much about it. I sort of just do the job.
Just get into it, yeah.
But yeah, trapping wise, you just basically go into the area, and a lot of it's that we've been doing at the moment. It's not like bush. It's like I've got a scrub, like a piece of bush that's called Matty. It's quite a prickly sort of, I don't know, it's annoying bush anyway. But they sort of hang around in like sort of rocky guts with this Matty and tussock, and it's not like they're always in bush. And so we sort of just put up like a white backing board, and then a trap, just a leak hold trap, and put a bit of lure there, and they'll see the white board sticking up in the tussock or whatever, and they'll go and check it out, and they'll have lure there, and you just get them, and then you have to come through the next day and do the deed.
So the white board's actually used as a thing to attract them in more than anything.
Yeah, so it's like a visual. Like most of the trapping with possums, it's like 90% of it's like visual, not 90%, probably 75%, because they'll see like a white thing, like, oh, what's that? That's unusual, and they'll go up there and
check it out.
And check it out. But then you've got like a scent there. It might be like aniseed or peppermint or something. And then they'll go, oh, that's nice. And then obviously you've got like a trap sort of bedded into the ground, and then stand on it, and you have to check them 12 hours before the next 12 hours after sunrise, I think. And then legally you have to check them. So, yeah, no, it's all good.
With the possums, like I know that there's like the possum fur and stuff's pretty big over in New Zealand. Is that something you guys, like with the possums you guys are eradicating, you then using the possum fur or anything like that, or are they pretty much just done?
Well, not really, because it actually takes a bit of time, especially when you're catching a lot. So you spend half your day, buddy,
just
plucking possums.
Yeah.
And rather than getting the job done, because it's quite like, sort of you want to get the job done rather than pluck possums, but it does seem a waste sometimes, I feel. But
do you know what sort of numbers you guys have? What numbers possum wise you have in New Zealand?
I don't know. Millions and millions.
Millions?
Yeah.
Jesus, that's crazy.
So there's a lot there, but I think we'll get given a block and we have to trap it down to either 1 or 2%. I think. Right. So then, and it gets like monitored with these whiteboards that I talk about, and they'll go up and a possum will chew it, and they'll go up and there's like a little thing that a possum chews, and so to get them like monitored, you have to get like, I can't remember. So many, only a very little amount of chews for it to pass, and then it's a sort of pass-fail thing. So if you don't pass your block, you have to go in there and redo it. So
I've just checked it out. 30 million possums, and that's after all the trapping that's been going on. And obviously, like if there's a company paying you to do it, there's going to be a fair few companies out there doing the same thing, right? Like possums.
Yeah,
that's insane. So it just says trapping, poisoning, and shooting has now reduced the possum population, but there are still about 30 million possums in New Zealand today. That's insane.
Yeah.
Wow.
So if we've gone into a block that hasn't been worked in a while, it takes a bit to get the numbers down. That's for sure.
Man, I've heard stories of people trekking, like actually just on the mountain walks through New Zealand, where you can stay in those random huts that are all over the national parks and stuff, and they're staying in the huts and literally waking up to possums like banging at the door trying to get in to get their food. Like, just said these things are freaking massive.
I remember. Well, there's a few places on the west coast where if you're like walking in the dark, you'll just be, I don't know, kicking possums, not kicking them off the track, but you'll see buddy 20 of them a night, just walking in. Or there's definitely a few around still.
That's insane. There you go. Yeah. We'll learn something new today. That's awesome, dude. So I mean, when did you start hunting? Like, I mean, obviously to lead into a job like that, you've probably been hunting for quite a few years. When did you get into it?
So when I probably started hunting, just like rabbits and whatnot, when I was, I don't know, probably 5. As soon as I could shoot properly, I'm not sure. I can't quite remember, but basically just started off just rabbits down the river, and I did a little bit of duck shooting.
Just went off by yourself, or were your parents always with you?
No, so my old man's into hunting, so he was sort of pretty good. We sort of went out and he made me catch the bug, I suppose. We went out a bit and just shot rabbits, and that was it for a start, just rabbits.
Yeah.
And eventually, you probably won't like this, but we've got a few wallabies, heaps of wallabies up here.
Yeah.
The ones that you brought over here, and they're a bit of a pest actually. So and then I sort of moved on to wallabies when you're a bit older, and then you obviously move up to deer and whatnot. And but I didn't start bow hunting till I was 16, so that's pretty new still.
Yeah, definitely, dude. And so always shooting just with rifles until that point, like shotguns for the ducks.
Yeah, so I was basically, I think I had a 22 and a 223, and I had I got a 270, and then before I started bow hunting, but then sold it. But just mainly just rifle shooting. It was pretty good. Shot a few tahr before I started bow hunting, and
What was the first big game animal you took with a rifle?
With the rifle, fallow deer.
Mm-hmm.
When I was 10, I think.
Okay, unreal. That's pretty crazy. Yeah. Big shot, or was it just a pretty good stalk, or was it a long shot?
Jesus, I can't quite remember. It wasn't that long. It was probably 100 meters, but it was long at the time. I remember that.
Yeah.
remember it was definitely a long shot. It was like I've actually got the head there. It was just like a little spindly like buck, just with a brow tines and a spike. But
yeah,
it was good.
Yeah, that's insane, dude. That's cool. And so, I mean, obviously, you've got a fair bit of access around you, like you were saying before. What do you have access to? You've got your Tahr, you've got your fallow, you've got your reds, chamois. What else?
Yeah. So, well, most of my hunting is on public land, but if I'm hunting fallow, it's generally on private. Mind you, they've just opened up a public piece up here. But yeah, so around here where I live now, there's heaps of Tahr if you go looking, and reds, and a few fallow and a few pigs, but then there is a few chamois in this area, but it's not quite the same as other areas. But then if I sort of have to go north or south a bit to start hunting chamois. And obviously I hunt Tahr around here a little bit, but most of it's on the west coast now, so I've sort of got that bug. So that's about 6 hours drive from here. So.
Okay, cool. So I mean, a lot of your photos are all around Tahr. Like, yeah, you've got a few pigs up there and stuff, like a few decent mountain boars and stuff up there, but a lot of your pics are around Tahr. So what kind of got you into the Tahr world? What made you start to dive down that realm?
Well, there's a few around here, but like before I started bow hunting, and you always, I don't know, there's this thing around bull Tahr. So especially over here, I think if you're a hunter and you're in the South Island, it's one of those things you always just want to get a big bull Tahr. So I think that sort of started it. And I do remember when we sort of first started, me and Dad first started Tahr hunting down here, just with the rifles. I remember it just being such a battle to find a bull, but we just probably weren't. I don't know. I was probably a bit young, not putting enough effort in. But I don't know. There's just that thing about them, big shaggy manes in winter and cool horns and just where they live, eh? So, and it's sort of like I started hunting them with the rifle and shot a few, and it was kind of like, I don't know, Tahr's sort of the bread and butter for me, and I just like doing it. But it sort of went through a stage of just trying to get a Tahr and then shooting a few, and then exploring new areas and then finding where the good ones are, and then it just turned into like more adventure sort of Tahr hunting.
That's cool.
And then just shoot like a big one if you can, sort of thing.
So let's talk about that. What dictates a good bull?
Well, for me, age definitely.
And how can you tell that? Like is it just by body size?
I've actually got some heads in here, but so generally, yeah, the older bulls are bigger in body size, but they've got like growth rings on the horns.
Yeah.
So if you're in close, you count the growth rings. You can count the growth rings, and usually you see them if it's stacked like paper cups. You've got a pretty good bull.
Yeah. Okay.
So you see like it looks stack of paper cups here. You're onto one there.
Yeah, dude, that's cool. Sorry, dog's just going for a little run around.
That's right.
So obviously you talked about finding some of the good sized bulls compared to just your regular ones. Whereabouts are you finding them? Like, what's the difference between where the regular Tahr hang and the big boys?
Well, I don't know. It's just effort, I reckon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Put in more effort. You'll find them eventually. But like the bigger Tahr I've shot have been on the west coast, and the biggest Tahr I shot about 16 hours from the road in walking to get in there. So
hiking 16 hours in, Jesus. Yeah. So it's all about getting yourself out into.
Well, you need to get out where people aren't. And bush bash and have a real shit time before you get there. To get a big bull, I reckon you just need to keep, effort is the main thing.
So it's like resilience building, really.
Yeah.
Tahr hunting is resilience.
But I find it easier to bow hunt Tahr on the west coast because the terrain, you can just find sort of, I don't know, the scrub edges are a bit different and you can just seem to sneak around a bit better, but it's more effort, definitely more effort to get in there, but there seems to be bigger bulls in my point of view anyway.
Yeah.
Sort of gone off a bit there, but
that's all right. Do they rut and everything the same as like a lot of the other animals? Yeah. When's their rutting season?
The rut starts from about end of April through till basically the end of July or August, and that's when they've got in winter they've got that big dark chocolate mane and the hairy ass on them. And yeah, it's definitely a good time to hunt them. The bulls are, well, once you get in close, it's the bulls are kind of curious-ish if you've got good wind. So it's they kind of think, oh, what's that moving up there? It might be another nanny. So
if they see you, they're not really going to run off. It's more so if they smell you.
It depends really. Sometimes they will, sometimes they won't.
Okay.
But then outside the rut, they can be definitely quite hard to get it on.
Yeah. Okay.
If you've got good wind, and don't move too much, you should be right.
So I mean, talking about like before, you were talking about taking some shots, obviously with a gun. But it becomes a lot different when you're shooting with a bow. You have to get pretty close in. What sort of shots are you taking? Like how far are you confident to shoot out to?
Well, obviously you like to shoot them close, but at the moment I'm good. Like I'm confident at 50, but I've had stages where I've been shooting out to 60.
Yeah.
And I think the longest shot I took on a Tahr was 67. And that was just I was confident and felt steady and just released and it hit it where I wanted to. So.
Yeah, definitely. But like, is this a straight shot, or is this usually going to be an up or downhill shot?
Oh yeah, under Tahr you can't help. They're going to be ups and downs. So yeah, you want an angle compensating rangefinder, that's for sure.
Yeah, okay. So you've got yourself one of those, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I didn't for a start. I couldn't figure out how to actually get it to come up on the screen. So yeah, I did shoot over the top of a few.
Yeah.
When it started, but yeah, but with bulls you want like a definitely a solid broad head, and you want to be shooting them reasonably close. Like you don't want to be shooting them out past 50 meters. Well, you can, but you want to hit them right in the right spot, because if you hit like T-bone a rib or something, well, it's not good out too far. So you want to be a bit close. But
are they pretty jumpy animals? Like when they hear a shot, will they duck a string or anything?
They're not. Well, they do, but they're not too bad. Like I've had the odd nanny jump the string, but no, they're generally pretty good.
Okay.
They're generally not too bad. They're interesting critters. They can be sometimes it seems quite easy, and then you'll have days where you just can't get close. Like they'll spot you from 300 meters away, and you're just shaking your head. And then some days you can just walk right up to them. I don't know.
Just the way it works. So I mean, up on the hills, obviously you got a fair bit of swirl from the wind that comes up and down the hills anyway. So what are you trying to do? Like thinking about in the morning compared to in the afternoon. Like what are you really trying to pay attention to?
Well, over here you sort of try and plan where you camp for where like the prevailing wind's coming. So you want to camp like, so say if there's a nor'west, you obviously want to camp downwind of it.
Yeah.
And you're not just scenting up everything before you get there. But it's hard. It really is quite hard in the hills sometimes, because you can have a foggy piece blowing over, like a bit of clag just blowing in, and then it'll stop, and then you'll get the wind just come straight up your ass, and then you'll get the clag come over the hill again, and then it'll swirl. You can't really predict it sometimes. So you sort of just have to sort of go where the sort of winds, hunt with the wind that you've got, but it's always going to change. You can't help it, and you do get blown stalks quite often just with wind swing.
Yeah, so it's once again just building that resilience.
Yeah. But the lucky thing is with Tahr, if you're in the right area, you generally have a few opportunities. Yeah. Because there's a few of them about. So that's the thing. So if you just want to go shoot a Tahr, if you're in the right spot and you've put the effort in, you will get quite a few chances. You should anyway. And
is there any rules against nannies compared to the bulls? Like anything you should, like, are you guys allowed to hunt either or?
Yeah, we're basically allowed to do what we want. They're kind of hated over here. So.
Wow. Where are they introduced from? Do you know?
Himalayas. They're from the Himalayas.
Okay.
Tahr. So they're actually called the Himalayan Tahr, and they were in, I think, 1904. They were introduced in the Mount Cook region, and then they had a couple more. I think a bit later they brought some more in, and yeah, they sort of spread east and west.
Yeah, just went.
But they're not
crazy.
they're not all over the South Island. I think we've got like quite a sort of there's quite it's a reasonably big area, but like if you go past like Christchurch, there's probably none north of Christchurch, and there's like none south of Dunedin, sort of thing.
Yeah,
supposedly. Okay. So they were on just a certain part of the Southern Alps, and if they are found out there, like the choppers will come in and shoot them
down. Yeah, and so when they breed, do you know how many they're usually dropping? Like how many the nannies are usually dropping? How many kids?
Just one or two generally.
Yeah. It's kind of like goats.
Yeah.
Do you know how often they're breeding? Like, are they only allowed to have one cycle a year, or do they have more?
Yeah, I think it's just annually. They generally drop about November. Well, the kids are real small in November generally, so it's just I think they probably drop mid-October for onwards.
Wow. So, conceived in April and then birthed in November.
Yeah, pretty quick.
Yeah,
well,
definitely.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, that is cool, man. And so, I mean, what have been some of your biggest learning lessons with the... Oh, actually, no, one question I want to ask you first is around the weather, because obviously you were talking about before, you can have weather that changes pretty quickly over there. Is there like an ideal weather for them, or if it's raining, are you pretty much just worthwhile packing up and getting out, or is it still worthwhile going for a look?
Well, on the East Coast, there's sort of like East Coast Tahr and West Coast Tahr. Uh-huh. So on the East Coast, you're sort of the eastern side of the Southern Alps. It's not really, you're still in the mountains, but the weather's obviously nowhere near as bad.
Yeah,
it's a lot settled compared to the western side, and like if you've got weather. So what am I trying to say? Well, on a shit forecast, you may as well not even bother going into the mountains.
Shit forecast meaning rain or wind?
Rain and wind.
Yeah.
Rain and wind. It's not going to be too fun because when it blows, it really blows up there.
Yeah.
And rain, it generally really rains.
Uh-huh.
But in terms of like hunting them in the rain, you definitely can. In like patchy fog, it's real good because you can sort of sneak in and use the fog as cover.
Yeah.
And they seem to just stick out. I don't know. They sort of stand out in the open in the fog. It seems it's weird.
Yeah.
But and then changing to the western side, it's like a lot of the hunting there is weather dependent because you've got side creeks and rivers that come up and drop real quick. Mm-hmm. And when it rains there, it pours.
Yeah. Okay. And so it's just dangerous as hell.
Yeah, and like so, the valley I've hunted a lot in the time I've been in there since I was 15 or 6. There's been 3 people die in that valley hunting.
Yeah.
So,
have you ever been stuck up there, like just unexpected?
No. I try and pick the weather pretty good.
Yeah.
But I haven't been stuck yet. Being the keyword. But I've had times where you have to put real big efforts in to get out, so you don't get stuck. So you sort of like if you've got like a forecast that's coming, like you might have to get out here.
Just go sprint.
Because if it's going to rain and it rains for a couple of days, you won't get past over like the creeks.
Yeah.
And generally, any west coast catchment that you're going up, there'll be big side creeks, and when it rains, you're not crossing them.
And so, do they give you any survival, or did your dad give you any survival tips around that? Like, hey, if you get stuck, this is what you should do. Sort of like Dad only really sort of started hunting hardcore when I sort of got into it. Yeah.
But survival, I don't know. You just have to be prepared. You have to have the right gear, like a good jacket, good sleeping bag, good sleeping mat, a good tent, because otherwise, you will not have a good time if the weather does turn. So just proper gear and like proper boots. You don't want to go in half-assed, and you don't want to go in with a she'll be right attitude because it will bite in the ass because it's proper country and it's proper weather, and it will
So I mean, are you only ever going on overnight trips then? You're never doing day trips?
Well, you can not on the west coast. You can do little day trips up side creeks for like chamois, but on the east coast, I can do day trips, but west coast it's generally overnight. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 days.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Cool.
So
That's awesome. So, I mean, those longer stints, how many of them have you done? Do you kind of try to do a few a year?
Longest stints, jeepers. Well, I sort of generally do quite a few, like probably 4-nighters.
Yeah.
I'll go out. That happens quite often, and then like big sort of 7-day plus, I'll probably do. Oh, this year I probably did 8 or 9, 10 maybe.
Yeah.
Or maybe not that many. I can't really remember, but obviously this next year coming there'll be quite a few sort of extended missions. But
Yeah,
the
awesome.
big ones are definitely good because you just got time to get in there and scope out and watch and see where the big fellas are, and yeah, it definitely helps. You're not rushed with anything.
Yeah. So aside from your rangefinder on those hill shots, what are some of the things you had to kind of overcome to be a little bit, I guess, better prepared for those shots up and downhill, as steep as they can be?
Well, you just want to like practice on hills because it's like your footing can be a real pain, and sometimes you have to shoot off your knees and like, it's just, I don't know. You just have to put up with it, and you have to get used to it, I suppose, because you're not going to get around it. So yeah, angled shots are just what you got to do really. But it's not, yeah, I don't really prepare for it. I just sort of know it's going to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, you can obviously practice your angled shots, like set the target down a hill somewhere and have some shots and know where arrows are hitting. But yeah, I don't know.
That's all right. You talked about broadheads, making sure you got solid broadheads and stuff before. What's your kind of go-to? Are you a fixed blade person, or do you go for mechanicals?
I'm shocking. I'm chopping and changing all the time.
Yeah.
I sometimes use mechanicals, and I'll use like, this is probably, people aren't going to like this, but I'll use like a 2-inch Chinese rage and then just cut the sides off it to like about 1 and something.
Yeah.
So it's like a $2 broadhead. But I've shot big bulls with them and they seem to work still. But like, that's if I'm in like a rush and I don't have proper ones. But I'll mainly just use a slick trick. So like that 4-blade 1-inch.
Why did you cut the edges off them? Why'd you do that?
Or for the rage, just penetration issues because 2 inches.
2 inches is too big
on
for
the balls, thick skinned animals, and if you hit like a rib or or a leg bone when you're shooting, it just won't go through. It'll just stop. Yeah. So but yeah, what I've had probably most success with like the slick tricks, so like that 4-blade 1-inch cut, fixed blade. They're really solid. Well, I find them really solid. And
how do they come out the pack? Are they sharp already? Like all good to go?
They're probably the sharpest to go broadhead I've seen. They're real sharp slick tricks. And they're really solid, thick steel, and real accurate, so they're good.
So you've never do you do much with tuning your bow, or you never really had to? You pretty much just found they were good to go with your field points.
No, they sort of you sort of have to do a bit of broadhead tuning.
Yeah,
they're not, but my bow's always, well, I don't know, you knock it around and slip and whatnot. It's always in and out of tune.
Yeah.
They are. If your bow's in tune, they will definitely shoot with your field points. But most of the time, mine are probably like an inch out, and I'll just sight in the broadheads.
Yeah. I know I've never come across a changing of broadheads that hasn't needed some form of tuning. Yeah, it's just the way that it seems to be. Even if, like, I had my bow completely tuned in, and then same thing. It just seemed like every time I used it, it would, even if it was a different broadhead, it would still just need that little bit of adjustment. Obviously, because of its flight pattern, it's going to be a bit different. And so, I mean, talking about Tahr, like, what else is there to know about them? Well, actually, one thing I want to ask you about is up and down the hills. Like, what have you found the best way for stalking up and down the hills is? Like,
well, you want to get above them, definitely, because they look down, and, well, they look down for danger, because that's how, like, in the Himalayas, they'll get up on a big rocky outcrop or what, and they'll look down. So if you can get above them, and you're quiet and you've got good wind, you can sneak in reasonably close, because they generally don't. They do look up, but like a lot of the time they're not expecting you coming from above them. Yeah. So get above them. But a lot of the hunting I've been doing lately has sort of been like scrub edges. So like on the west coast, you've got like a scrub line at generally about 1,000 meters. and you'll find there'll be nannies up in like the bluffs and in like the tussock faces, and then on like just as it's getting dark, you get the bulls that'll come out of the scrub edge because they've got all that helicopter pressure there.
Yeah.
And so like helicopter buzzers, they can just duck straight into the scrub.
Uh-huh.
So it's sort of like if you're hunting bulls on like a scrub edge, it can be quite good because you've got like little scrub bushes and heaps of like, it's quite undulating country. You've got dips and ups and downs and little creeks you can sort of sneak around. So it's just picking your area, but like a lot of, I don't know. Well, from what I've seen, guys coming over here to hunt tahr, a lot of it's on the east coast, and it can be quite challenging because it's quite open.
Yeah.
And sort of you don't really, the country's sort of quite a bit different east compared to west because there's generally not a bush line on the east coast, and west coast you've got a bush line. You've got bush basically till you hit about 1,000 meters above sea level, and then you've got like a scrub line, and then it goes patchy scrub, and then it goes to tops, tussock tops, and rock and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah.
So I sort of find get above tahr and get good wind, and just slow movements as with everything, and you just try and make it happen.
Yeah,
you just got to practice, keep stalking. But if you're above them, you're doing pretty well.
Okay, and so let's talk about like from start to finish of a hunt for the tahr for you. What's your game plan going into it? Like what are you doing to try to spot them out? If you got a spotting scope, if you just got binos, like what's your game plan for finding them first through to how you'll then get above them and do your job?
Well, we'll sort of relate this to the West Coast because that's what I've been doing of late, and that's where I've shot a couple of bulls on the East Coast. But so obviously start to finish, obviously you walk in on the West Coast, it can range from, I don't know, you're probably not going to break out in the open. It can range from about 4 hours to breaking out to the tops till 16, 17 hours. Mm-hmm. So obviously walk in, break out into the open, and then wait until a bit later. Well, obviously get the binos out, just pick through scrub edges, just shady guts if it's a hot day. If it's winter, you find the nannies. If you're hunting the rut, find nannies, you'll find bulls.
Yeah.
But if you're hunting in spring or summer, you just glass, and once sort of the light sort of starts going a little bit.
Sorry, are you glassing with the spotting scope or just with the
binos? Sorry, yeah. Binos. I don't have a spotting scope. A lot of guys do use spotting scopes, but they're bloody heavy. But I don't know. I'd rather, especially bow hunting, you just get in close anyway and just have. And if it's a good ball, it's a good ball. It's not. But a lot of time, anyone's happy with the tahr anyway. So it doesn't matter if it's a good ball or not.
So let's talk about your method of binos. Like when you're glassing with your binos, what are you going for? Are you kind of gridding the mountain out and going like left to right, up and down?
Well, a lot of the time you can sort of look with. So if you've got like a tussocky face with like rocky guts, you'll just have a quick like pick over that, and because it's generally quite open. Mm-hmm. And then, but then I'm mainly focusing on like a scrub edge.
Yeah.
So like I'll just pick through that, and little guts with scrub in them. They bulls tend to like that, and little grassy patches. Mm-hmm. But I'm not so much gridding. I'm just sort of looking like glassing scrub edges, and little guts with like scrub in them. And then if it's the rut, you just find the nannies, and they're generally, if you're in the right area, they're pretty easy to find. So
it's more so about finding the spaces where you think they're mostly going to be, and then paying attention to it, rather than just glassing a whole mountain and saying, okay, there's no bulls here.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can do that as well, but I'd say glass scrub edges and likely looking guts and like grass, but that's more sort of for West Coast. But East Coast, you've sort of bluff systems. The tahr love just bluffs on the East Coast, and maybe like a bluff system with a tussock band under it. Mm-hmm. So they'll hang out in the bluffs all day, and then come down when it gets dark. They'll drop into the tussock and start feeding. Yeah. As it's getting darker. So.
And they're more a nocturnal animal?
Oh, not really. It's just as evening comes, they just seem to just start feeding.
Yeah.
But. Yeah, so they're not really nocturnal.
And then on the cold mornings, are they likely to be on the sunny face? Like they're likely to get out in the open, or not really?
Yes and no. They're sort of I don't know, they've got a big thick coat, so they don't really mind the cold.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I've always found Tahr. I've had more success on Tahr in the evenings, just about every.
Yeah.
So yeah. I don't know.
That's interesting. Do you, just purely based on your bush theory of how they come out through the scrubs? Is that the best way you've found of an evening?
For bulls, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
You are, but then sometimes in the mornings you'll have a scrub face that you won't see any bulls in because you can't actually see into it. It's kind of like bushy scrub.
Yeah.
But then there might be a creek or a slip, and so pay attention to the sides of the creeks where there might be a grassy bank or slips because in the scrub, and then that's a chance you could get in the mornings. But in the evenings they'll generally just sort of throughout the day they'll just park up in the scrub or just off the scrub on a little gut, and then as soon as the sun sort of goes from the hills, goes behind the hill, you still generally got sometimes 3 hours of light because the hills are so steep.
So big, yeah.
But as soon as that sort of goes and it starts getting shady, I'll just start picking apart the edge of the scrub because it sort of, it goes thick scrub and then it gets quite patchy, and then they generally hang around in that sort of patchy area where it's sort of patchy scrub and grass and boulders, and that's how I shot my best one just recently. We just went and sat on this rock, me and a friend of mine, and just watched the scrub edge and watched a couple of younger bulls come out, and then a reasonable one, and then the big boy as it got up later, and then went in and got it done. So.
And what are they typically looking for to feed on? Is there anything that you've kind of found they're really after?
Well, so in spring that's why there's a thing over here called Lovember. So Tahr come down quite a bit lower down the hill in spring because they'll feed on the fresh, obviously growth down a bit lower.
Yeah.
But they'll feed on anything scrub, just grass, little bushes, lichen off rocks sometimes.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's kind of why the government hates them over here because they sort of they don't do damage too much, but they do damage a bit of the native alpine plants and whatnot.
Yeah, and I mean that's obviously a lot of what New Zealand was originated on, right? All of the, it didn't have any of these mammals or anything there to kind of feed off of it. So it's understandable. So I've just actually zoomed in on one of your photos and finally been able to see what you're talking about with the rings on the horns. They kind of only go up halfway. Does that mean that that's where the life age stops? What's an old bull?
Can I just show you this?
Yeah, man, grab it. That'd be sick. Unfortunately, we're not filming this one, but we'll explain it as best we can.
So you sort of got this is sort of like the paper cup theory.
Yeah, sick.
So that's like an old bull there. So it generally starts, you've got at the tips of the horns, they'll have their first year and a half of growth, which is from here. So from
what's
here to
that?
there.
That's like a good inch, 2 inches?
Probably 2 inches.
Yeah.
Generally, it depends.
Yeah.
If you've got a bull, so some bulls have good tips, some bulls have poor tips. So a lot of length does actually come out the first year and a half year of growth, and then they'll just throw out a ring every year.
Yeah.
And they'll just it's kind of it's just a growth ring. It's a little sort of, I don't know, dent in the horn, I suppose you call it.
Yeah.
And
so that first year, 2 inches, and then when's the next year? Can that that's essentially another inch away? Hey,
that can be another inch or more even.
Yeah.
So that's basically the first. So that's first year, and then you've got second year, and then they sort of just taper out.
Yeah.
Get more and smaller.
So how old is that guy? How many?
He's 13. So that's a pretty old bull.
Yeah.
It's not as old as they get, but you sort of 13, 14, 15 is definitely a really old bull.
Okay.
But there has been some shot that have been 17 years old, but
wow.
Yeah. Mature, but it's weird. This bull's only 11 3/4 inches, and he's 12 years old. But you can get a 7 or 8 year old bull that's 13 3/4. So it's it's just it just depends what they've been eating or their genes or what the population's like, how big they grow.
Yeah. So just looking up, and they've been seen to live up to 22 years, but obviously that's going to be pretty extreme cases.
Yeah, so I've actually nannies definitely live older than the bulls. I've got a 20-year-old nanny in here too.
Wow. How do you tell on the nannies?
Same thing basically, except it's
So
just
the boys and the girls both have the horns.
much smaller version.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
And so with goats, for instance, on the nannies, they've got the horns that come straight back, and the boys have the horns that come out to the side. Is it the same for the Tahr?
Similarly, you don't get much sort of curl with the nannies, and the horns are like way smaller, like a lot smaller, and they sort of just basically just go back. But a big old nanny might come in a little bit, but much thinner, and the base is much thinner, and definitely nowhere near as long.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's super cool. So, what's the lowest that you'll find Tahr? If it's like in November, obviously you're talking a little bit lower, but what is the lowest you typically find them?
Well, I've seen them on the west coast at about 100 meters above sea level.
Okay, wow.
So really low.
No, it's not too bad.
But so like on the east coast, they're generally a bit higher because I know it's like a gradual climb from the coast on the east coast but the west coast it just goes sea and then up into mountains. So,
yeah.
But so the lowest elevation is probably it was about 100 meters on the west coast. But so in November they'll sort of they come out from. They generally hang out at about sort of 1,600 meters on the east coast, and then like when that spring growth comes down and going towards summer, they might come down to like 800, 700.
Mm-hmm.
But then it's quite a bit different on the west coast because you've got a bush line, so they're generally always just out of the bush line. But then sometimes you get them right down low in the creeks, and sometimes even on main river flats. Sometimes.
Yeah.
So it just depends. But then, like a really old bull that's had enough might go right down to the river flat, and it might be the middle of winter.
Yeah.
And he's at 200 meters sea level on a river flat tucked away somewhere. So
that's insane. And so, obviously, like you're going to require a fair bit of leg strength, leg endurance to be able to go and hunt some Tahr. What sort of stuff do you yourself do to keep yourself fit?
Hunt lots.
Yeah. So it's just about getting for you just out in the bush more.
But, no, I've been pretty lucky with when I'm working. We're beating the feet every day, all day, every day anyway.
Yeah.
With the trapping of the possums, you're up and down hills. You might be doing 20, 25K a day sometimes.
Yeah.
So I've been pretty lucky to that. But if you're not fit, it is not fun. Even if I haven't, so sometimes I might have like a 2 or 3 week where I'm not hunting.
Yeah.
And man, you feel the difference.
Yeah, definitely.
Climb hill. So yeah, but I don't do anything specifically to sort of train for Tahr hunts.
Now, I'd say for the Australians getting over there, they would definitely need to start doing some squats, lunges, deadlifts, anything like that. Getting in on the stair machines or just walking hills, sprinting hills, whatever you can do just to work on that endurance to be able to get up and down those hills. That's that's definitely something that you can't just step into and be good to go. Yeah,
you definitely put a heavy pack on, load it full of crap, and just go walk uphill.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I've got a friend from Aussie who's actually coming over now in February, and he's already started training.
Yeah,
and he's a fit dude. So yeah,
no, definitely. I mean, it's funny just even getting around here in the hills. Sometimes I'll definitely see the fitness difference between some people I go out with, and then. Yeah, to think of that, like that's just an extreme level. It's like the biggest hills we have here in Australia are nothing on the hills that they've got there, pretty much.
Yeah, no, it's definitely be a challenge because sometimes you're facing climbs that it's like, I don't know, 5-6 hours long where it's just constant, and you might have walked 5-6 hours along a river flat up the river for a start, and then you've got to bloody climb up this bloody hill with a heavy pack on, and through scrub and bush that's catching on you all the time, and it just gets quite frustrating.
Yeah. And so, I mean, with your, how do you wear in your gear and stuff? Or how do you test your gear to know that it's going to be good for you, for instance? Like, if you've got a pack, how do you know it's not going to rub the shit out of your body before taking it on a 6-hour hike?
Well, the first pack I got was a Mac pack, and it was Dad's one. So you just basically go and test them for a little bit. Just go and just walk around with them.
Yeah.
More hunt with it.
Sorry, my dog's just had a freaking fight. They haven't been out all day because they've been at the beach all day. So they've just been little brats doing everything for attention. Go on. Sorry. How'd your dad's pack?
Yeah, so I had my dad's pack and so for a start, and that was all good. But yeah, you just need to go do smaller trips with them, start and load them up, and just go for a walk. But then the next pack I had was we've got this program in New Zealand called NZ Hunter Adventures. It's these hardcore fellas that do real big missions, and they have these packs. They call it Tatonka. Tatonka pack, and I went and got one of them.
Like
and
Tatonk, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then so they're good. They're hardy. I had one of them for a while, but I had the straps break on them both sides, and that was a bit of a pain just from heavy loads, just all the time.
Yeah.
But that was all good. And then this latest pack I've got one of those Exo Mountain Gear ones.
Yeah.
And that's probably the most comfortable pack I've had.
Okay.
But yeah, it's it's definitely comfortable. And when loaded up, it doesn't feel like you have got as much weight as you would have like in a different pack. It's just real comfortable, sits on your back good, and yeah. But I didn't really test that. I just took it straight in. And
have you got one with the brace on it, like the cage essentially inside to help you carry more?
Like a frame.
Frame.
Well, I've got like the Tatonka and the except I've got the alloy or whatever it is in them, but I haven't got one that's like an actual it's not a pack frame with a thing on it. It's just got the rods in there to keep your back stiff.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I mean, you're probably going to be pretty set with something like that. That's it's been made for hunters, right? Like, I feel like that's going to definitely be probably one of the better packs to go for. I mean, obviously they're pretty expensive, but when, like what you're saying before, like when you're going out for almost like it's your own survival, it's worthwhile.
Definitely, and they do last too.
Yeah.
Not something that lasts. But another thing about like if you're hunting New Zealand, especially on the west coast, like you've got shit grabbing at your pack all the time. Like you've got sticks rubbing up against, and you don't want like a little flimsy little thing that's going to get ripped up as well. Mm-hmm. But yeah, definitely like you want a good pack. Pack's like the main thing. If you're a backpack hunter, I suppose. But it just depends. Yeah.
Yeah, but, definitely. Yeah,
pack's definitely something you want to spend money on anyway, I reckon.
Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, going back to the Tahr side of things, is there anything that I should have asked you about that I didn't?
Sorry?
Is there anything in the Tahr side of things that I should have asked you about that I didn't? Anything we didn't cover on? Well,
I don't know. There's inches wise what a good trophy is what I'm more for age, but so like there's sort of a few classes like 12 inch bulls, like a good bull generally like 4, 5, 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got like that 12.5 to 13, you're getting pretty good. 13's a really good bull actually if you shoot a 13-incher.
Yeah.
Like most guys with the rifle will be happy with that.
Yeah. Okay.
And then you've got your 13.5, 14, 15s. Not many 15s get shot. A few 14s get shot, but like that 13.5 to 15 inches is a real thumper.
What was that one you showed me just before?
That was a really old 11 3/4, but I shot the biggest one I've got is 13 3/4, which I shot semi recently, which is I'm very, very, very happy about. I'm not sure. It'll be a hard one to beat.
And that was with the bow?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I started bow hunting, I didn't pick up the rifle after that.
Still haven't. That's sick. That's so good.
Straight both and sort of hunting. So yeah.
Yeah. Do you feel that it's just not as big a challenge now if you don't use the bow?
Yeah, like I don't. Yeah. Yeah, I don't. Yeah. Oh, how am I going to put this? I don't know. It's just not the same at all.
Something different, right? I guess it's a new challenge for you to work towards.
It's a new challenge. I've just actually got a recurve to start trying that sort of thing. To try a new challenge. Sorry, I just got a recurve.
Oh, sick. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and that's something else I want to try.
Yeah.
Try to shoot a ball with a recurve. That would be pretty cool. So that's another challenge. But yeah, I mean, like some of the places I go on the West Coast, you are seeing good quality balls often. And if you have the rifle, like you'd be shooting balls, big balls all the time. So I don't know. It just keeps you hungry out of the bow hunting.
Yeah.
Especially when you muck one up or miss a real good one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's different.
Frustrating, but frustrating in a way that you just get hungry to do it more.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, dude. So, I mean, something else you do, is there anything else on the Tahr, actually, before I dive into that?
No, not really. Well, there probably is. There's probably a lot of other things, but all I'd say if you want to go hunt Tahr is put in a lot of effort.
Yeah.
Because effort does get you the rewards, and get above them and research good areas. They do a heap of research as well, and because there's been a lot of culling over here recently. So go onto the Department of Conservation website, and you can find a little map where the helicopters have been shooting.
Yeah.
So that's also something you can take into account. But yeah, just effort's the main thing.
Dude, I just realised, I would have misled or missteered you when we were talking about your method for hunting. So once you've glassed them, I think that's about as far as we got to, and then I took the direction somewhere else. So
I'm pretty bad at going off on tangents as well.
No, that's cool. That's good. So once you have glassed them, what is your method like?
So I will try find obviously a good animal to stalk for a start, and then so I'll use this last Tahr I shot as an example. So I glassed it from about 300 meters. I was below them, and I had the wind, like a bit of clag. A wind was blowing over this clag that was coming over the ridge to my left. So I basically cut down. He was sort of a bit out above the sort of scrub line, and so I cut down across to the right, got onto a ridge to get the wind right, and then you sort of poke up a ridge, and then come over, and then just work your way through little gut, and then just peek your head, and and then have a go. But I think you can ambush them quite well too. So if say it's evening and you've got one just coming out of the scrub line and it's sort of moving up, that's another good method. You can just sort of try pick where they're going and just get above them and just let them come to you as well. Okay. Is another good method. But I'd basically see what the wind's doing and just work to that. But like, I don't know, I wouldn't say I'm the best stalker in the world, but like, I'm getting better, but just you can get a few opportunities. So just get above them, and get above them is just the main thing, I reckon, for me. Obviously, if the wind's right.
Yeah.
But yeah.
What's the closest you've ever got to one in the wild, like without, or just the closest you've been to them in the wild?
Well, sometimes you can spook them from like 2 meters away. I've had spooked like unseen ones from like 2 meters, but I've probably been, 8 meters, I suppose, from some.
Yeah, far out.
We had this last trip. I had a mate with a good camera, and we snuck in on some bulls at like 12 meters and just took photos of them.
That's cool.
Come up above them and on top of them, and sort of peeked over this little rock and
just sitting there.
But like, I wouldn't say they're as switched. Tahr hunt is switched on as like they can be, but I reckon they're probably a bit easier than the likes of a deer.
Okay.
Senses wise, mind you, some red deer over here are pretty dumb. But they're not. If you get the wind right and you're careful and you sneak up on them, they're not really, really edgy, wiry, but they can be. But they're not too bad. Oh, another point is if they've seen you, just like anything, but just stay still for ages until they
come
back. They'll put their head back down, and then they'll look up at you again.
Yeah.
After about like another 10 seconds, they'll look back up at you, and they'll put their head down, and they might do that 3 or 4 times, and then once you've done that, just get back out of sight and keep going, or just keep trying, because sometimes even if they have seen you, you can if you're just still enough, they can sort of forget about you almost. So yeah, that's another thing.
Definitely.
I don't know. I think that's probably all I can think of about the old woolly mammoths.
What's do you keep much of them? Like, do you keep their rugs or anything? Keep their fur?
Yeah. I've got a few. We've got a few skins there, and then just heads, and take what meat you can. But it's quite difficult, because a lot of time I've been like, might be 14 hours from the road end or something, and it's not an easy 14 hours, so you might just take the back stakes in the head.
Yeah.
So it's not like a. But then, I mean, you can just go up here and shoot a nanny on the east coast, and you're a bit closer to the car, so you can take the meat out.
What's the meat like? What's it comparable to?
It's pretty good. It actually is not too bad. It's it's like a slightly tougher version of venison. Mm-hmm. I don't reckon it's quite as gamey.
Yeah.
As a red deer.
Yeah.
It's actually quite good. If it's prepared right, it's bloody awesome. I still reckon the best meat I've ever had was like a stinky old bull cooked in its own fat after a big day on the hill one day.
On a big open flame?
No, in a pan, in like a little pan. But yeah, I don't know. It was really, really, really good for some reason.
Yeah, okay. I wonder if it's just because of the hard day you'd had, or if it was.
Well, it might have been, but it just seemed to taste just amazing. I don't know. It's weird.
Kept going back for more that day. That's awesome. That's cool. I think that gives a lot of insight into Tahr, and I have talked about Tahr a little bit on the podcast before, but never that in detail. So I think that's good to kind of see that depth of it. Something you've got a few photos up of, and I was commenting on this before we started, was the crayfish that you guys go diving for.
Yeah.
I think essentially is what we'd call lobsters, right? Like they're huge. They're monsters.
Yeah. Well, yeah, they do get quite big, yeah.
Yeah, so what's a good size one that you were saying before?
Oh, yeah, so I think, so if you've a really good crayfish in New Zealand's probably 3.5 kilo, 3 kilo probably, because that's quite a big, that'll be a good red crayfish. But then you get, up north, you get the, they're called a pack horse cray, and they get a bit bigger. But, big red crayfish, good one's probably 3 kilo.
And so, obviously 3 kilos of something just flopping around going crazy, like their tails are powerful. The way that they swim off is powerful. Yeah. What's your method for kind of grabbing them, and what's the tips around crays for you guys?
Well, just find a good close coastline with like a big steep bank where rocks can fall into the sea, and then because the crays obviously hide in the big cracks, and generally, the bigger ones are generally a little bit deeper around it depends where you are, but they're probably around that sort of, the real big ones you start seeing them about 13 metres, or 10 to 13 metres, but you will get them shallower. But just go in, just dive down and just look under cracks and try to find them. And then once you find them, depending on how far into your breath is, I'd just leave your weight down there, or your spear gun down there, and come back up and then go back down and basically line them up. And you want to, you can either go in from underneath, and you want to grab them by the horns. So they've got feelers that come out and then they go into like a horns as such. Yeah. And so that's sort of the best place to grab them. So you sort of can either come in, depending on what the rock's like, you come in from underneath and just basically throw your hand in like you're about to punch them, but grab them because they're super quick. Yeah. And just grab them by the horns, and just sort of work. Sometimes they'll tuck into a little crack and do their best to just hold themselves up against the rock, and so just sort of wiggle them a little bit and make them sort of feel like they're free, and then yank them out. Go for it. But especially some of the big ones, they can be quite a battle to get them out.
What about once you've actually got them out of the rocks? Are they pretty hard to take up to the surface, or they're not too bad?
No, they're not. They're not too bad. Like the big ones, if he's got hold of you, it can be quite a. It can hurt coming up to the surface, but no, they're not too bad. The big boys do like flap around a little bit, but it's manageable. Yeah. And then you obviously get up to the surface, and if you've got a boat, buff it on the boat or catch bag. Yeah, that's another thing. If you've got a catch bag, they can be quite a battle to get in there too.
Can imagine. So we were talking about the claws before. Like they're obviously not as big as crab claws, but they're still something that can do a fair bit of damage. Yeah. So. If they do get a hold of you, it's more not the pincers are the thing. They've got this big spike on like their first like joint, and if you get your finger or something in there, they will just squeeze on it, and they've got this big spike, and it just will dig into your finger or your hand or your thumb. Yeah. And so not on the little ones, they're sort of a bit harmless, but you get sort of a bigger crayfish, sort of 2 kilo upwards. If he does get hold of you there, it will hurt, and they sort of squeeze and just dig their claws in. Yeah. And another thing they can do, especially the big boys, if you grab them by the horns, the big fellas are sometimes big enough they can reach over the top of their horns and just dig with like the top of their claw, and they'll just dig it into your your hand. Yeah. Just try and get you to stop, but yeah. Far out. So you've been done a few times then.
Yeah.
And then what's your best method for cooking them? You cooking them whole and just chopping the tail off, or what's the deal there?
Well, Matt, sort of steam so you might chop the tail off and you can barbecue it or boil it.
Yeah.
But just barbecue it and garlic butter is really nice.
Yeah.
Or you can just boil it for like 30 seconds and take the shell off the tail and then just cut it into like bite-sized pieces and crumb it and do it.
Yeah.
And that's also really good as well. And then generally with the bodies, you just steam them for about 6 minutes until it's all cooked through, and then you just like rip a leg off and just hook in. It's bloody nice.
Dude, you make me hungry. That sounds incredible. Well, dude, we'll start to wrap up in a sec, but let's talk about your year of hunting. How's that kind of come about? Is it just like a dream that's kind of come about since hunting when you were younger, or what's the deal there?
Yeah, it's sort of a bit of a dream. There's a few guys that did a 6 months hunting thing in a New Zealand magazine over here that sort of gave me a bit of inspiration. But yeah, it's just the sort of thing I want to do while I'm young and while I'm fit, I suppose. And it's been a dream, and I've just got hunts that I want to tick off. And like I've been to Aussie this year, and I want to go back and try to tick off a few other species and have a good time. And then there's a few big sort of expedition type hunts that I want to do over here, and just achieve a few goals. So
dude, that's insane. That's cool. And so, what do you have an actual game plan as such set out, or is it kind of you'll wing it a bit more?
Or over here, I'll sort of wing it. Well, it will almost be basically winging it because we're bloody lucky over here. We've got all this dock land, conservation land you can just hunt on.
Yeah.
So get a permit and you're sort of ready to roll. So yeah, there's just like I want to shoot a good red deer with the bow, but I want to shoot it sort of deep in public land, like a big sort of walk in. But I'd be happy with just like a respectable stag, but I just want the adventure with it. And then a good seeker deer is on the cards as well. And
the seeker deer, are they only on? Is it Stewart Island? Is that where they are?
Oh, that's whitetail. Seeker are in the North Island and arranged the Kaimanos and Kawikas.
Okay.
But yeah, seeker are only in the North Island.
Okay. They're quite small, aren't they?
Yeah, similar to fallow.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, but they're definitely very cool deer. I've had some close encounters with big boys, but no joy. So that's another goal. And then
are seeker the same as? Are they the same as like the axis deer?
Nah,
they just look similar.
Yeah. So seeker like a mature seeker stag's basically 8 points. Sometimes they'll throw out 9 or 10.
Yeah, okay.
But they just, most they'll really grow as like an 8-pointer as a mature seeker. And then, so that, they're quite different to Chiddle.
Chiddle, and there you go. I'm just looking at some of the photos now. They just look like they've got the same sort of hide to them. Some of them, not all of them. Yeah,
it's weird that you can find sort of quite
they almost
really spotty ones.
Yeah.
And then you can find ones that
they almost look like Samba, some of them, like with the brown.
Grey?
Yeah, brown and grey.
So it sort of just depends.
Yeah, that's cool.
I think there's 2 like subspecies of them. There's what are they? I can't remember what they are, but there's 2 different little subspecies in New Zealand. They have sort of a different shaped head.
Yeah,
but they have slightly different shaped antlers, I think.
The Yizo seeker and the Formosan seeker.
Yeah, I think there's
something different over there.
Yeah, I can't quite remember. I haven't dug into it too much, but
yeah, that's cool. So knocking off one of them, knocking off a decent red. What else have you got?
Yeah, so good seeker, good red. I want to do shoot white tail deer, but I kind of want to do it because there is a little mainland herd on the mainland, and to shoot a good, it's quite a sort of I don't know, touchy subject, but to shoot a good mainland whitetail on public land was like a dream. But that's the sort of thing you only want to shoot a good one. You don't want to shoot anything else. You just want to shoot a good.
Yeah.
Kind of similar to the wapiti in New Zealand. You want to
make sure
if you're going to shoot one, if you want to shoot one, it has to be a really, really good one.
Whereabouts are they found on the mainland? Whereabouts?
Sort of Queenstown, kind of up the lake from Queenstown.
Yeah,
Glenorchy.
wow. Okay. Is there a fair population of them or not really? It's pretty...
Not really. They're kind of... Oh, there's a few, but yeah.
And that's public land, not private?
There are some on private and there are some on public as well.
What will you
it's
try?
Quite a big country.
You'll try to go private or public, sorry?
Public, definitely, yeah. You can't really, unless you do like a guided hunt, you can't really get on the private land. And what else? I want to get a rooster in Australia.
Yeah.
A rooster stag, and yeah, I don't know. Just a few things. The big red and the Sikh is the main sort of thing. I didn't get a wapiti block this year, so that might have to wait. But yeah,
let's talk about that for a second. What's the ballot like for that? Like, how do you get in and amongst that?
You just go on there's a website called the Fjorden Wapiti Foundation, and you go on there and you can become a foundation member, or you just sign up on the thing, and then just put in for the ballot each year but you can go in after the ballot until they drop their antlers, and then that's it. But otherwise, you've got the ballot for the obviously the rut. You used to be able to go in before the rut, but they've stopped that now. So yeah, but that's all conservation land. But obviously, it's quite a protected sort of herd down there. So
what's the ballot that you go into? How's that work?
So there's just a series of blocks that you just put your name down for what blocks you want at what period, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's basically just a draw, and it's drawn out, and if you get a block, you get a block, basically.
That's cool. And do you know how many they give out?
No, I don't. But yeah, I can't even remember how many. There might be 40. Is there 40 blocks? I don't think there's that many. But there's like coastal sort of blocks, and then you've got the big G's, like good blocks, where all the big wapiti come out from. Yeah. Well, supposedly. So a lot of the guys will obviously want the big fancy blocks, like Lower Glaze, Not Wild Natives, Wapiti River, all those sort of.
And so the wapiti, are they breds? Are they actually elk, or are they elk with reds over there?
Basically all of them have got red in them somehow now.
Yeah.
But it's getting better. Like the Wapiti Foundation are doing a pretty good job of getting the red blood out of there, and so there's better heads coming every year, coming out of there. So
and big animals, like they're big-bodied animals.
They're still proper, like big. Yeah,
still like 300 to 400 kilo sort of size.
Probably not that big, but 250 sort of type.
Okay,
thing.
So it's still decent. Yeah, wow. Ah, that's cool, dude. That sounds like a sick trip. I think that would be absolutely incredible.
Yeah. I also want to shoot a good chamois too, which they seem to be eluding me of late. But
just because of the different places that you're in, do you reckon, or?
With the chamois?
Yeah.
Oh, no, look, this last hunt I went on, I got into under 30 metres of 2 bucks and was just too impatient.
Oh, no way.
And rushed it.
Yeah.
Didn't get shots at them. One of them I snuck up to about 15 metres of it, and when I last saw it, it was feeding away, and I peeked my head up over this sort of rocky sort of, I don't know, outcroppy thing, and just saw its horns. And I was like, oh, sweet. And as I was picking my head back down, I just see him pick me. Like I see his horns turn and look at me. I'm like, oh, no. And so I waited there for, probably, it felt like 10 minutes, but it was probably like 3 minutes or 5 minutes or something.
Yeah.
And I could just see the tops of his horns waiting for him to stand up. But when I saw him, I just saw he was sort of sitting broadside, so I thought I should be able to just whack him sitting down because he was only like 15 metres. Yeah. And I was I'll just draw back and pick my head up. But as soon as I got my head up over the rock, he just picked me. When I was what I should have done, I should have just still waited, and he would have been, what actually is that thing? And he would have stood up.
Yeah.
We had more time, but I don't know. I seem to rush the chamois somehow because I haven't quite got the good one I want, and I'll get there.
Well, still learning. Yeah, exactly, dude. No, that's cool. And I mean, that's what is awesome about bow hunting, right? Like everything that we do, we realize that there's a lesson in it. Every failure has a lesson, which is sick. So, man, I think that's probably a really good place to end, Monty. Where can people follow along for your journey for the next year? I think that's really cool.
Well, Well, basically just Instagram. I'll post a bit of stuff on there. That's about all.
Yeah. Are you planning to document it in any way or not really?
Oh, I'd like to. My good camera's actually in the shop at the moment, but yeah, I'd like to do a little bit. I probably won't go over the top, but yeah, there'll be some stuff out there anyway.
Yeah, dude, that's sick. Well, no, I really appreciate that, man. I appreciate your time, and I think it's cool for you to give us a fair bit of insight on that Tahr. I think there's a lot of Australians that are very keen to get over to New Zealand and hunt because it's just so accessible. Like, really, some of the places over in New Zealand, you have so much better access than what we do here, especially in Queensland where I live. Like, unless you have private land, there's nothing to do. Like, you can't go hunting. Yeah. So, something like that where it's literally $250 to get across to you guys. It makes it pretty worthwhile.
Yeah, and we're pretty lucky over here, and there's definitely some good hunting if you put the effort in. So.
Yeah. Dude, that's insane. And I think that's probably the best thing the biggest thing from this podcast is the resilience that you need to put into it. Like, really, it's about building resilience through getting out there and just working your ass off as soon as you get there.
Yeah, just be persistent. Yeah, don't give up. Yeah,
dude, that's sick. Well, thanks so much for joining me.
No worries. All right.
That's it, guys. That's a wrap. Thank you so much for joining us this week on Becoming a Bow Hunter. You guys can follow along with the journey at becomingabowhunter.podcast on Instagram and Facebook. You can also head across to the YouTube channel, which is Becoming a Bow Hunter. So, guys, follow along. We've got a whole heap of different recipe videos up there, as well as different snippets from along the way, along the journey so far. If you guys do enjoy the show, please pass it around. If you got something out of this show, then I'm sure another bow hunter, another friend of yours would get a hell of a lot out of it as well. So please share the love, share the podcast, and thank you so much for tuning in.